everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here today, and before we get started, make sure that you're following me over on Instagram. I post lots of tips, tricks, and hacks over there that you don't want to miss out on. Today's video, we are going to go over Design Space. We're going to go over both the desktop version and the app version. You guys always ask about the app, and personally, I don't use it very often, but for those of you that do, we're just going to kind of do a quick overview of both. Now, this is a great video if you just got your Cricut, so be sure to grab a notebook and a pen and take some notes. So let's go ahead and jump over into Design Space and get started.
Whatever we would do, we do it just for fun.
We're going to set up a whole new machine. That way you guys can see it step by step on how to do that. So what I do is I'm in my Cricut Design Space and I just went to New Project. Then under your name here, which is your profile, you're going to click under Settings. Then in Settings, go to Machines. You want to go to New Product Setup and click Start. It's going to open up this page, which will ask you, do you want to set up a cutting machine or a heat press? We're going to be setting up a cutting machine, and then it gives us all of our different cutting machines they offer. Today we're going to be doing the Cricut Maker 3, so go ahead and select that, but you select whichever machine you're setting up. Setup should be fairly similar. It's going to give you just some kind of things to think about. You want to make sure you don't have your Cricut right up against a wall, and then it tells you exactly how to plug it in. Now mine's already plugged in, ready to go, but I love that they tell you exactly how to do it. Then go ahead and click Next. Now it's going to ask you how do you want to connect your machine. I have both a USB or a Bluetooth, but for this we're going to do Bluetooth since that's how I connect it all the time anyways. Now it's going to tell me no device found because I have not actually connected my Cricut to my computer. Now I'm using a Windows computer and a Mac might be a little bit different, but what you're going to do is go down to your little Windows bar, show the hidden icons, and click on the Bluetooth icon. Then you want to go to add a Bluetooth device. Now from here, you're going to see that it will have like discoverable devices, other devices, all the things. So you're going to scroll down and you're going to find the correct maker. Now you'll notice I don't see it on here at all. I see a bunch of other stuff, but not the one that I'm specifically looking for. So what you want to do is click Add Bluetooth or Other Device. Then I'm going to click on where it says Bluetooth. And it just says to make sure that my Bluetooth device is on. And this one is the Maker 3 7C45. Yours will have different numbers after it. Go ahead and click on it. And it's going to connect and say my device is ready to go. Go ahead and click Done. And now under Other Devices, you will find your Maker 3. Right there, connected, easy to go. You go ahead and close this up, and then you'll see now here, it shows the Maker device connected to Bluetooth. Go ahead and click Continue. Now it wants us to activate our Maker, and to make sure we have our Cricut ID. You should have already signed up for a Cricut ID. Go ahead and click I agree, and click Activate. From here, we're ready to go. Everything is set up. Very, very easy. Click Next, and it's going to want us to cut. I've already done this. I'm not going to cut, but it'll walk you through cutting with your machine. It's going to tell you how to make sure that your blade is loaded. You'll always want to check your blade prior to cutting your first time, because a lot of times from the factory, it's not seated correctly, and sometimes the blade is actually damaged. So make sure you give your blade a good once over. It's going to have us insert our smart material. Again, we're not going to do any of that since we've already done it, but it does kind of get us through everything. It'll take you through how to cut with your machine and everything, so you can definitely follow those steps very, very easily. It's just going to cut out a little decal. It'll show you how to weed it and all of that. Now you're completely set up. It's just going to give you some getting started tips and tricks. But for this, again, you can play with this part, but we're going to get you started using a few other projects as well. We are going to start here on the opening page of Design Space. There's a lot of great information here, so we're going to go over a little bit of what's on this page first. Now this is of course the desktop version, and we will be sharing the app version in just a little bit. So what you're going to see here is they're going to offer you a few of these banners, which are usually just ads for things that they have. Typically they're different, projects, or if they're having a sale, something like that, or the new machine. Next down here, we have a Get Inspired section where you can check out beginner projects. Usually this will change to whatever holidays close by. stickers, birthdays, things like that. These are pre-made things from Design Space. If you scroll down a little bit, it will kind of eventually learn you a little and figure out what you've recently searched for. And it's going to show you similar images to those that you've searched for recently. Then this usually is a section that, again, is kind of based around whatever holiday it may be. So in this case, while I'm filming this, Halloween's pretty much our next closest holiday. So they're going to give you a bunch of projects that have to do with that. They're also going to showcase some fonts, which is fun. So if you just scroll down here, it's usually just a lot of like things to inspire you. Now we have some other options over here on the side. So this is the Discover page that we're on here. Now Design Space changes all the time, so just keep that in mind. You may need to search a little bit sometimes for some of the things that I'm showing you. They should be relatively in the same place, but I want to show you where they've moved settings to in this newest update. Settings used to be over in the left-hand side under 3 little lines. However, now it's going to be under your profile, which is up here at the top right edge of your screen. If you click on that, you're going to be able to find your settings options. Now it's going to take you to this screen and it's going to show you all these different settings. Under General, it's going to ask you for the country, the language you want to use, whether you want to save to cloud and computer or cloud only. Then which application you want to use, whether you want to use Live, which is your most updated version that's available to public, or whether you want to be using the beta version. Beta just means that they're testing out some things, so everything may not work exactly like it should. Then it's going to just tell you about your subscription and a little bit about the Design Space that you're currently using, what version you're in, and all of that. Then you can look under machines and you can see that you can find some great helpful things here. There's new product setup. There's updating the firmware. You can also choose to calibrate your machines and you can drop down the list to find the one you want to use. We also have machine care, which that one is only for the Venture. You also can do your custom material settings from here and link any of the cartridges you have from here as well. Then we can go under Canvas, and this is where you can change some things like your canvas grid, which one you want to use, your units, whether you want to use imperial or metric, and under operation type has yes or no. Not sure what that means, but I've never changed it. We're not sure what that means yet. Then we have load type, and this is where you can set your default load type for each of your machines. My Maker 3 is defaulted to 12 by 24, but you can see that my Maker is defaulted to 12 by 12. So you can just kind of play with that and figure out which one you use the most. And then in here, you can turn on and off notifications from your Design Space. So you can turn it on for different activities, different notifications from Cricut. Set that up however you want to. Now, let's say that we want to make something in Design Space. All you simply need to do is click this big green button up here that says New Project. Now, this is where we get a lot of great stuff, and you may want to take some notes because there are a lot of settings and information in this section that you're going to want to know about. We're going to start right at the top and just work our way down over here on the left-hand side. So new just means that you can delete whatever you have on this portion, which is called your canvas, and start a whole new project. Obviously, we have nothing here, so we don't need to press that. But if you want to start a new project, you can use that little button right there. The next button down is templates. Templates are a great way to kind of get an idea of what a design is going to look like on a banner, an apron, a shirt, a bowl, a dog collar. These are not going to be sized to the item that you're using, however, so you want to keep that in mind. This is more just for a visual aid, but they have a little bit of everything in here if you want to get an idea of what your design might look like. Our next piece down is project. So this is going to be made like for pre-made projects that you can just click make, and make whatever you want to do off of this page. But these are all going to be pre-made items. The next thing we have are shapes. So this is a great little tool if you want to add to an SVG, you want to make your own thing. Right here are all of your shapes. Now certain shapes are free to use for anyone, but then we do have some more fancier shapes that are used with just the Cricut Access subscription. But truthfully, you can find these shapes on Creative Fabrica if you don't have access. The next one down is images, and this is where you're going to be able to see all the different images that Design Space offers. Now, if you see an image that you like, you can bookmark it, but there's a lot of ways that you can filter out stuff that you can play around with this and figure out how you want to use it. Everything's pretty well spelled out under the filters. Our next option is our text option, and this is going to allow us to add text into Design Space. So you can just type whatever text in that you want once you've clicked the little text box, and you can edit it, change its size, and change its font. So we'll make it really big, and then you can just change its font from a Cricut font, their system fonts, and it also stores your recently used fonts, so it makes it really easy to find what you maybe used recently, like a couple projects ago. You can change your fonts, change your colors, all sorts of things, and we'll get into that stuff in just a second. The next one that you've got here is our phrases. Now, this is one I don't use real often, but it's basically like images, but instead of being images, it's just words. So it's just another way to find like different designs that you want to use. Then we have editable images, and these are just designs that have a section where you can change the wording, whether it's a last name, whether it's an event, whether it's an age, something like that, or a letter. These are how you can change them over here. The upload option is one we'll visit here in just a second again, but I just want to show you. This is how you're going to upload the designs from Creative Fabrica over into your design space to use them. You can see I use some of these little cute ghosts just recently. So that's how you're going to upload. And like I said, I'm going to show you that in just a minute. We'll come back to some of these. And next we have our monogram, and this is for Cricut Access users only. And you can create custom monograms with this. It's still in the beta testing. It's still not perfectly working, but it exists. So let's go over some of the options here at the top, and we can kind of discuss those. So I'm just going to tell you what they are and what they do. So our first two here are the undo arrow and the redo arrow. So if I want to undo whatever I did to this, which was change the font, I can click that, but I can also just put that font back right where it was. The next item is operation, and if we click on this, it's going to give us the different things that we can do within our machine. So for cutting, we can do a basic cut, a wavy cut, or we can perforate. You need a special tool for the wavy and the perforation. You can also draw this. You can draw it with a pen. You can use the foil tool with the fine, medium, or bold tip. You can score it. You can deboss it. You need the debossing tool that we talked about over in the tool section. And you can also engrave, which we talked about over in terms as well. You can also print, then cut, which would be to print on an outside printer and then have the Cricut cut out the design. And then the next one is guide. Now this is great if you have like a certain size blank that you want to put something on. This is going to turn it into a red outline item, and it's not going to cut this for any reason. But what it is going to do is it's going to allow you to fit your design within that section. So a guide is a really handy tool. It's almost like a template. Then we have the deselect option, which if you just click it, it just unselects your design. We have the edit option where we can cut, copy, paste, duplicate, or delete. The align option, which would typically work if I had more than one thing, but that's where you're going to center, where you're going to offset to the side, to the left, to the right, whatever you want to do. That is what align is. Arrange is going to send to the front, bring forward, send to the back, or, just kind of align it into those layers panels. You can also group and ungroup from here, but there's a little bit of an easier way for that, and I'll show you that in just a second. The next option is our flip option. You can either flip horizontal or flip vertical. Now, when working with HTV, because you need to mirror the object, I always recommend flipping it horizontally on this screen. That way you don't forget to mirror it, and that way Cricut isn't going to mess up mirroring it by doing it that way. I'm going to flip it back to the regular section. The next one here is an offset, and some people call it an outline, but when you use the offset button, it's going to add an additional layer to your design. That's going to allow us to cut like a different color vinyl or cardstock or something behind the name. You can change the size of your offset at any time, however you want to do it. It's really up to you. Next thing we have here is I'm going to go ahead and back select our text is our sizing options. So you can see your width, your height, and then this little lock button. This lock button makes sure that when you move your word, the scale stays the same. I'm going to quickly undo that really quick. And I'm going to show you if I unclick this so that the lock is open, I can now change the scale of my name and it won't hold it exactly correct. So that's something you want to keep in mind. If you don't want to change the scale, make sure the little lock is closed. Our next option is our rotate option, and you can rotate this and just choose like a way you want to rotate it. So you want to rotate it 180 degrees, you want to rotate it 90 degrees, you don't want to rotate it at all, but that's how you rotate with the rotate option up here. We also have a position option. So what this is it is these little lines over here. Not only are they inches, but they're also like an X and Y axis. So if I change the X to 1, you're going to see it moves over to this 1 line. And if I change the Y to 1, you're going to notice that it lines up now with the 1 and the 1. I don't use those too often, but when I do, it really does make a difference. So if I do that over here with this one, and I line it up with the 1 and the 1, they're not going to line up perfectly because that's just, it gets it from like the edge of your design, but it will get them closer back together. But that's how you can position them on to your canvas here, if you so desire. Now with text, we have a few other options down here at the bottom, which I'll go over really quickly. We have our font selection, and then you have style. So some of these are going to allow you to do like bold and italic and things like that. This one does not allow it. You can also change your font size right here. If you know for a fact like you want a certain font size, like I just changed it down to 22, that was a little bit small. But if you want to change it that way, you can. I don't tend to play with that one too much because I just like to use the width, the height, stuff like that to measure with. But if you're doing something and you know you need like a size 14 font or whatever that may be, you can use the font size. Letter spacing is actually going to push your letters apart or pull them closer together. So you can see here, as I change the number to a higher number, the letters are further apart. If I change this letter spacing to a lower number, so if I get into the negatives, you'll see that it pushes the letters much closer together. I'm going to go ahead and turn those back to 0. Next, we have line spacing. Now, line spacing won't really do anything without a second line. So let me just add a second line so you can see this better. And we can probably get rid of the offset right now so you guys don't need to look at that really quick. So you'll see here that I have the 2 lines and they're pretty far apart. So just like when you're doing letter spacing, the higher your number is, the further apart your lines will be. So you see I'm at like almost 3, I'm at 3 right there. It's further apart. But if I want them closer, I need to move into the negative numbers. So you see, as my number is lowering, my design is getting closer and closer together. Now you can kind of play around with this, and it depends on your font and things like that and the letters you use, if you need them closer together or whatnot. It's really up to you and what you want to do with that, but that's how you can move your lines closer together. The next one we have is alignment, which is similar to the align at the top, but for this one, text. So I can go left, right, top, bottom. I can wrap on or off. If I wrap on, it's going to kind of, as you hit the edge of the box, it's going to go to the next line without having to hit enter. If I have it off, I have to hit enter myself to change the line. We also have a curve option, which we cannot do with 2 lines. So if I reduce this just to 1 line, I should be able to curve this, no problem. So curve gives you the option to either curve it up or curve it down. So you can either do a smile or a frown. It's really up to you, but there's a lot of curve option right there. So that's a fun one to play with. And then last but not least is our advanced option. Now with this one, we can ungroup to lines, ungroup to layers, or ungroup to letters. If I ungroup to letters, it allows me to move each letter individually. So you can see here, I can move my letters independently. When it was grouped, I could not do that. It was all one piece, because you'll see over here on the layers panel, we now have each letter is its own layer. I'm going to go ahead and undo until those letters are all back together and they are back to grouped. Watch that. See how now it's one? Super easy. Now over here on the right hand side, we'll go over what this stuff is, and we'll get back to this button in just a second. So you have your layers panel here, and you have a color sync option. So let me go ahead and I'm going to show you these buttons really quick, and then we'll show you what color sync does. So this button here is your group or ungroup button. Grouping and ungrouping is just what I showed you with those letters. Right now it's grouped, which means I can move it around and none of my letters move. If I ungroup it, I can move each of my letters independently. So you see how now we have multiple layers. I can just go ahead and regroup it and it comes back to the way it was. Now the next thing we want to do is take a look at this one, which is duplicate. If I click duplicate, it's going to give me the exact same design with the same layers, and it's going to have the same exact thing. You just are able to do double. Now I'm going to change the color on one of them. And let's say that we want these both cut on the exact same piece of vinyl, so we want to make sure that the colors are the same. But let's say they both look yellow. Now obviously this one's pretty obvious, they're not the same, but sometimes you'll get a design and when you hit make it, they show up on different pages, even though you want them the same color. If that happens, go to the word color sync. And under color sync, all you have to do is pick one of your designs. So I'm going to pick this brighter yellow, and I'm just going to drag it under the lighter yellow, and now you'll see that they're the same color. That's a super easy way to make sure that everything you have is going to cut in the exact same color. Now we're going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and select both things so most of our designs kind of come up, but we'll go over the two that are grayed out here in just 1 second. So combine has several options under it. There are a bunch of different options, and I'll just quickly kind of go over what they do. So weld is great if you have overlapping pieces and you want them to cut as one piece without any cut lines. Unite does the same thing, but Unite can be undone after you've saved a project and weld cannot. Subtract just removes the overlapping section from the other section so that you have a certain piece. You can kind of see the description right here. Intersect will leave the two pieces that are touching and take everything else that's not touching away. And then exclude will actually take everything that's touching and remove it and leave everything that's not touching. I highly recommend just playing with those and kind of seeing what they do for yourself. It's hard to kind of explain it. Then the next thing we have is attach. So if I click on attach, what it's going to do is it holds the two pieces of my design together. If I detach, you'll see that I'm going to be able to move one word without the other word moving. So if I want them to overlap a little bit like that and I click attach, it's going to hold them together, and when we hit make it, it will keep them in place the way I have it. I'm going to go ahead and detach them really quickly. Then we have this option, flatten. Now flatten is only used when you're doing print and cut. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep this one selected and click flatten. And I want you to see over here on our layers panel, it now says print and cut, and you'll notice that there's no black line around it. That's because we've set it to flatten, which means it thinks that we want this to be print then cut it, meaning that we need to send this to an outside printer like our inkjet printer or our laser printer, print it out, and then take it to the Cricut machine to cut out. I'm going to click unflatten because obviously we don't want to do that. Now, even once you click unflatten, you'll see that it still stays with the print and cut operation. Just go ahead up here and turn it back to basic cut. Now, a lot of times you'll notice that it goes back to gray, and if it does that, you can just simply click color sync and you can drag the color into the other color. That way they're still the same color. Go back to your layers panel, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shape. I'm going to get rid of these. We don't need these anymore. We're going to take two shapes. I'm just going to use whatever. It doesn't matter what shapes. And just show you the two other options that we have not used. So I'm going to make them much bigger so that we can see a little bit better. And I'm going to change one of their colors. We'll just change it to green. Now, if I kind of overlap my star and my oval and I select them both, you're going to see that we have this slice option. Now with slice, you can only slice 2 layers. So you'll notice that I have 2 layers selected. Let's add another shape, and that way you can see that if I want to, let's say I want to slice this heart out, and I'll make this heart a different color. Let's say I want to slice the heart out of the oval and the oval out of the star. Why, I don't know. But you can't do that. You'll notice that the slice is no longer selected because you can only slice 2 layers. So if I want to slice the star and the oval, all I need to do is select the oval and the star. And now we want to go ahead and click slice on these. Because we're able to slice them, you'll see that the gray is no longer there. It's nice and black. So if I click slice, it might take a second. Sometimes it's a little bit slow, but you'll see that now I have this star piece, and I don't want to keep that for now. And then I have my oval and then all these extra pieces. You can go ahead and delete anything you don't want to keep. And then let's say we do want to still do the heart out of the oval. You'll notice that the heart goes behind the oval now. All you simply need to do is either you can use the arrange option up here, or you can simply right click on this and send this to the back. Then I can line up my heart wherever I want it, select, and you'll see I have those 2 sections, so there's only 2 selected, and I can click slice. Now again, might take a second, and then all I need to do is get rid of the pieces that I don't want. So I don't want either of these 2 hearts. Now I'm going to show you contour. So let's say that, oh, you know what? Don't really want that heart sliced out. You can get rid of parts of your design by using the contour option. And we're going to click on contour, and all you have to do is see where this heart is. Click on that, and your piece is whole again. You don't have to do any welding or anything like that. And now you have your oval whole again. There's a lot of options to do with this, and you kind of, like I said, get used to using the buttons, playing with them, and figuring out what each of them does. So I'm just going to add a little bit of text again, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add a shape to this really quick. We're just going to pick a random shape. I'm going to go ahead and make this one blue, and I'll make this one red, and I'll make them bigger, just so you can see them a little bit better on the screen. So let's say this is what we want to cut out. We want to cut out this oval, and we want to cut out my name. We're going to just cut them on vinyl, let's say. So all we need to do from here is click Make It. Now I want to show you around the Make It screen for just a second, and then I will show you the app because it is a little bit different. Now remember I said that mine defaults to the 12 by 24. First thing I'm going to show you is how to change your material size. All you have to do is click this drop down menu, and it gives you all the different sizes that your design will fit on. So let's say we're going to use a 12 by 12 sheet of vinyl for this, and then if we want to, we can go over here under this one, and we can say that this one we're just going to be using an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You'll see that it turns it to fit, and that it'll fit perfectly fine. This is also where you can find this mirror option, which, like I said, I don't trust nor prefer to use. I like to use the flip option, but if I click mirror, you'll notice that it makes my name go the other way. So that's how you would do it if you were needing to flip your image and mirror it, but we're going to go ahead and get rid of that because we don't need it. Now let's say that we have a hole, we already have something cut in this corner of our vinyl, so we want to cut it over here on this side. All you simply have to do is click your design and just drag it. And you can drag it anywhere onto this vinyl that you want to. So if you know that this bottom corner of your mat is sticky and you want to put the piece of vinyl that you're cutting down here, you can do that. So you can move it around anywhere you need to. Now again, this is something I would recommend kind of playing with and getting used to because you can turn things, all sorts of things you can do to make a vinyl fit onto your mat in a certain way. You also have this material load type for some machines. Not every machine gives you this option because with some machines you can cut without a mat and you can also use the card mat. If you're cutting without a mat, you need to use the Explorer 3 or the Maker 3 or the Joy Extra. The Explorer Air 2, the regular Explorer, and the regular Maker don't cut off mat. I also want to show you this option up here, which is super handy, project copies. So let's say I need to make 6 ovals and 6 of my name. All I need to do is change this number to a 6, click apply, and it's going to set out 6 of each of these designs. So you'll see here I have 6 of my name. There's 5 on one sheet, 1 on another, and then I have 6 of these ovals. I think these are super great. This is a really easy thing to do, and I promise once you kind of play with it and get used to it, you are going to be a pro at this in no time. Then when you're ready to cut, you can just hit continue. It will attach to your machine and it will give you cut settings. Now I highly recommend checking out the rest of this course to learn a little bit more about cut settings and how to choose them. I'm going to show you around the app a little bit, but keep in mind I'm using an iPhone, and if you're using Android, it might look a little bit different. So in this one, it's going to be very similar to the desktop version where it's going to give you kind of some inspiration on that front page. Now I would recommend learning the desktop over the app any day. The app is just a little bit clunky. You have to click a lot of things to get to options where the desktop you don't have to. Now we have a great settings option here where you can go ahead and choose your different machine selection. There's also a way to set up your machine from the app, so don't worry if you don't have a computer, you can set your machine up that way as well. Now all the settings are, again, fairly similar. It's got the thing about Cricut Access. It has all sorts of great settings, like what's new. It tells you what's new in your latest app update. And then it also has things like settings for pretty much anything you really need with your Cricut. It's really easy to navigate that part of it. It's got all of the information plus a sign out option. Now, if you want to make a new design, click the plus button and it's going to take you to the canvas here. And on the canvas, it's got all the similar kind of settings as you have within regular Design Space. You've got your images and then you've got your filter options, and it has tons and tons of filter options just like the desktop version does. But again, I just find the app a little bit clunky. I feel like you do have to click through a lot of menus just to get to the one thing that you want. Now on here, again, we've got different types of images. You've got the quotes or the graphics here, and then you can also use the editable images here where you can change names, dates, stuff like that. So very, very similar to Design Space on the computer. We also have the fonts option, which again, you can change the fonts. You can install fonts to your mobile device, whether you're using an iPhone, an iPad, an Android, whatever you might be using. You can install your own fonts. So you have Cricut fonts, the system fonts, bookmarked and recent, just like in the desktop. And you can have shapes here too. Exactly the same shapes are available for both of them. Now, what is cool is you do have the offset option now finally in the app. You can also upload images pretty easily from the app as well with the upload option. But there are lots of different actions you can take. This is why I don't like the app as much, because you have to click the actions button just to get to different things. Then you have to click the edit button to get to width, height, alignment, all of that stuff. This is your offset option, super easy to use. But again, you really have to click through a lot of things where that's all at the top, already accessible on the desktop. You can see your layers panel, and it shows you all of your different layers. You can still slice, weld, group, ungroup, attach, all of that type of stuff in your app. You can duplicate, but again, you're clicking through a few things to find that information. You can see at the bottom, there's all of your little different options where it's group, attach, combine, all those things are right there at the bottom. You can also delete your layers from that little section as well. As you can see, I've welded those. So there's a ton that you can do here in the app. Here's your weld, unite, subtract, intersect, and exclude options, just like you have on the desktop. And then you will see, again, you have to open up a whole other menu just to access a lot of that information. You also have undo and the settings options right there. Now we're gonna go ahead and download this image really quickly so you can see how easy this is. All I'm gonna do is scroll down, click download. It's gonna ask if I wanna download it. I click download, and then it saves it into my computer files. From there, I need to find the zip folder. Don't make fun of me, I lost it, even though I scrolled right past it. It's right there. Come on. It's right here, and when you click on it with an iPhone, it automatically unzips it, so you'll see that it opens a blue folder. Then you have all your different files. In Design Space, go ahead and click Upload, and then you want to browse files. You want to find that folder, open it, and then usually the last one on the list is the SVG. You need to make sure to give your SVG a name before you save it, and then it should upload directly right on to your canvas. You can resize it, you can recolor it, you can change all the layers, but just like with pretty much every SVG you're going to come across with this Creative Fabrica, it's got a lot of layers, so I want to make sure that I weld this because I don't want to cut them in different colors. So I'm just going to use the combine option and weld it. You can change your color. Like I said, there's a lot you can do with this. Play around with it, you'll find all your things. When you're ready, you can click Make It, and you can move it just like you can on your desktop. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Cricut Design Space, both the software and the app versions. That way you can really get started on your Design Space and Cricut journey. Now, I have tons of videos that are going to help you along the way, and I always just recommend pick one project, pick a video, and master that project. Learn how to do it, and a coffee mug's a great start, a picture frame, something like that with some adhesive vinyl, and then once you've mastered that, move on to another video and master that. Each video is going to give you a new skill that you're going to be able to take and make many, many projects with your Cricut on your own. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting!